The strike by teachers at the private Italian high school, organized under the Tezkopish Union, continues. On March 13th, workers held a press statement in front of the school, protesting the use of part-time assignments as a form of strike-breaking. On February 20th, workers at Polyak Mining stopped work under the leadership of the Independent Miners Union due to underpayment of wages and inadequate occupational safety measures. On March 5th, the strike ended in victory and the union announced that all demands had been met. On February 18th, 87 workers at Soma Thermal Power Plant, organized under the TES-ish Union, who had been placed on unpaid leave due to the plant's reported losses, launched a wildcat strike. On the 17th day, the wildcat strike ended in victory, and the union announced that the workers would return to work and their wages would be paid. The struggle of Karasi textile workers, who were dismissed in October 2025 for unionizing, continues. On February 26th, under the leadership of the Öz-İplikiş Union, the workers held a press statement at Famara Square, demanding recognition of their union rights and the reinstatement of the dismissed workers. On February 25th, thousands of workers at İmbat Mining, organized under the Turkey Madeniş Union, stopped work to protest unpaid rights from their collective bargaining agreement and zero wage increases. On February 28th, workers at Yeni Anadolu Mining, who also stopped work on the same day, held a mass march. The miners announced that they will continue the struggle until their demands are met. On March 1st, a press statement was held at Eminönü Square, called by the Workers' Party of Turkey, to protest the poverty imposed on retirees. Various pensioners' unions and associations, as well as UİD-DER, attended the press statement and called for strengthening the struggle against poverty, injustice, and the disregard of retirees' rights. On March 3rd, following a teacher being fatally stabbed by a student in Çekmeköy, Istanbul, teachers across Turkey stopped work in response to a call by education unions. In Ankara, teachers marched to the Ministry of National Education, while across the country they marched to provincial directorates of education, protesting the rising violence in schools. Female workers at the Dardanel factory in the Dudullu Organized Industrial Zone, who were dismissed due to downsizing and have not received their severance pay for months, held press statements in front of the factory on March 4th, at the Dardanel Sancaktepe warehouse on March 12th, and in front of the Dardanel headquarters on March 13th. The workers announced that they will continue their actions until all their rights are secured. Public sector workers, members of the Tumbelsen Istanbul branch No. 3, employed in municipalities on the Anatolian side, held press statements and sit-in protests to oppose the imposition of wage caps and zero increases during collective bargaining negotiations. On March 7th, doctors gathered in response to a call by the Turkish Medical Association and the Istanbul Medical Chamber to hold the traditional Great Doctors' March in Kadıköy, Istanbul. The White March, launched by doctors on March 11th in Diyarbakır, to draw attention to their issues and demands ahead of Medicine Day on March 14th, concluded with a press statement in Ankara on March 14th. On the 8th of March, International Working Women's Day, protests, press statements and marches were held in many cities. Women workers, women's organizations, trade unions, various labor organizations and political parties took to the streets across Turkey to oppose unjust and imperialist wars, inequality, discrimination, and exploitation. The wildcat strike of more than 180 port workers, who were dismissed on January 1st from Özgüneş Transport, a subcontractor of Mersin International Port, for being organized under TÜMTİS Union continues. On March 10th, the workers held a protest in front of the MIP building with their spouses and children, to reiterate their demands. On March 9th, Sırma carpet workers, whose wage differences and February wages had not been paid, launched a wildcat strike in front of the factory. On March 13th, during a protest at Balıklı Park, Birtek Sen Union President Mehmet Türkmen was detained and later jailed on March 16th after giving a speech in which he drew attention to bosses' rights violations, workplace fatalities, and the government's policy of impunity. On the occasion of 8 March, UİD-DER organized enthusiastic and meaningful events with the participation of hundreds of workers under the title 8 March: Unity, Solidarity, Struggle from Past to Future. The events took place in Adana on March 8th, in Ankara on March 15th, and on the European side of Istanbul in cooperation with the Belediye İş Union Istanbul Branch No. 2. The events addressed growing poverty, social inequality, violence, and the imperialist war escalating due to the US-Israel attacks on Iran, and called on all workers to intensify the struggle. It was stated that we are extending a hand of solidarity to Iranian workers in opposition to Zionist aggression and the fascist mullah regime.